And just real quick before we get started, I just want to hear your thoughts. CJ Stroud or Bryce Young?
Bryce Young. I think CJ Stroud's good. I mean, he's good, but I think Bryce Young's better. I don't think I would draft either one of them, though. If I'm drafting a guy with the first pick, I'm drafting someone that I actually think is going to win me Super Bowls and be a franchise quarterback. And both those guys are going to go to teams that I just don't think the team is ready. And I don't think they're so like Peyton Manning was so good. You could draft him to the Colts. He'd be bad for a year. And then in year two, they're in the playoffs. I don't think either one of those guys is going to drag where they get drafted to that level. I think they're good. They're worth a first round pick, but I don't know.
They're not franchise changing, you don't think?
Yeah, I don't think they're not Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or one of those kind of guys.
Yeah. Speaking of Aaron Rodgers, as a former Jets quarterback, how do you feel about him?
The Jets have a way better roster than the Packers do. The Packers were bad with Aaron Rodgers, so they're going to be terrible without him. But I think they could win there. I don't see them winning the Super Bowl, but they could be a playoff team. Part of the problem is the division they're in has the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Patriots. So they're going to have to compete against 2 or 3 other playoff teams just to get in.
Yeah, it is nice though to think about the Bills, or excuse me, the Patriots possibly being the bottom of that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
That's pretty nice. So, Erik Ainge, first up, tell me just your experience with D1 training in the past.
So I've been going to D1 forever, man. I mean, Will, who started it, as a Tennessee guy. I've had ties there forever. I used to train there all the time when I was younger. When I would come back into town, all those same guys have been in and around forever. I've trained people over there before, quarterbacks and everything, and from a facility standpoint, from a continuity standpoint, from the top to the newest guy out there training somebody. There's just a ton of continuity. They all teach different, but it's the same principles. So if you got a different person, I've done boot camps there. Like if you get a different trainer, you're hearing similar stuff. They're teaching stuff the same way because it's taught the right way. It's a lot of science-based. Professional athletes go there. I've trained all over the country and been to a million different gyms, and D1 is up there, if not the best place, in my opinion, of all the places that I've been.
Yeah. And like you said, talk about the continuity, and I guess with the programming, even though there's little tweaks, there really is that, like, the program that you have to stick with, kind of the D1 way. That's as we say, the Division I strength and conditioning programs. So that's kind of cool that they've already got that sort of set to follow when the coaches come in.
To use a football reference, there's a lot of different ways to teach an offensive lineman how to block somebody, right? So you get a different coach. They may teach things different ways, but the baseline of it, you got to have your butt down. You got to have your chest up. Low man wins. Got to be strong. Like the fundamentals of a football position are the same no matter who you get coached by or no matter where you go. And I feel like at D1 with the training, it's very much the same way. Like the baseline, the principles, the mechanics, the science behind it all, the continuity is there. And you may get little different tweaks here and there from different people, but that's not bad either. Hearing a different voice sometimes and going through that process is a good thing.
Yeah. And I definitely know how to coach offensive linemen just because I've seen The Blind Side.
Duh, right? It's easy. Don't get the quarterback killed.
Michael Orr, actually, he's a D1 guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's very involved. So you've made a great career in sports radio. Is that something that when you were a kid you had any interest in?
No, not really. I was actually joking with someone the other day. They said, why haven't you, did you think you're going to do this? The question that you just asked. And I said, no, but if you're the starting quarterback at an SEC school, especially the University of Tennessee, they should give you a minor in journalism or broadcasting because there's a camera in your face all the time. You're always answering questions. You learn how it operates, how it works. When I just graduated from UT, I already knew all this stuff, so it really was, it's a pretty simple transition. I think that's why you see a lot of athletes when they're done playing, they get into TV and radio and broadcasting and breaking stuff down. It's simple for me to do that part of it. And having been the quarterback, it's that part of it hasn't been hard. It's a really fun thing to do. I feel like I am coaching. Got fans, which I am now. but you get fans that are passionate about something, that want to listen, they want to learn. And I may not be coaching players, but I give my insight and my experience, and it may help someone who loves football be like, oh, I didn't think of that way, or oh, that makes sense now. So I love that part of it.
And honestly, that's something that you bring to the table that is, it's obviously not common, but just when you're able to talk, especially on a Monday after, a football weekend,
Yeah.
just able to talk about what happened in the huddle and on this play, that's a dum-dum like me who's just watching on TV isn't going to be able to pick up on.
Yeah. And it's not, I mean, I think as long as the people listening know that it's not I know what I'm talking about and you don't know what you're talking about. It's simply I watched this and here's what I think. And people don't always agree with me. In fact, often
Yeah.
they don't. But it's not my job to make them agree with me. It's my job to just share what I saw.
Mm-hmm. I don't know why I'm just thinking of this, but what are your thoughts on Tony Romo as a broadcaster? Just because he brings his experience, to the announcing, and it seems to bring a new element that we haven't really seen in a while.
Oh, I love him personally. So I got to meet him a few different times. I worked Jason Witten's football camp back when I was in college. And so it was early Tony Romo. And he was the same humble, goofy, funny, charismatic guy then that he was as a player, that he is as a broadcaster now. And I love that he brings that. He breaks the game down, but he'll mix in a joke or he'll make fun of himself. He's one of those guys that could take himself seriously, but just doesn't. And I think that as a viewer, and I try to do the same thing, but it makes it more listenable or watchable because you just feel like he's talking with you and not at you. And he's funny. He does a great job.
Yeah. Sometimes when he makes the predictions, it's just almost like, have you seen the script or something? How did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
But it's just him from being in the huddle.
That's it.
Yeah. So what was when you were a kid, your ultimate like sports dream?
So I was a basketball player when I was a kid. I mean, being an Ainge, growing up, my uncle Danny, the NBA player forever, that was always my thing. And I was a baseball player. I was probably actually better as a pitcher and a shortstop than quarterback or shooting guard or anything like that. So I just love sports. I was the guy that, we talk about D1 all the time. I mean, I didn't necessarily know what sport I wanted to play, but I was an athlete and I wanted to be a better athlete because I love sports. And I just decided that there was a better market for a tall, slow guy to throw the football than try to guard people playing Division I basketball because they'd go right. I could score, but I could not guard them. And I landed on football, but my whole goal as a kid was to be a professional athlete. It didn't matter what sport, none of that mattered. I just wanted to be a professional athlete, and I reached that goal. But looking back on it, you always talk about we talk about setting goals for people that are coming into D1 that are training, having reachable goals, long-term goals. I kind of like set my peak goal at just being a professional athlete. So then I became one, and then I was kind of like, well, now what? I wasn't the kid that dreamt of being a Super Bowl winner or winning an NBA championship. I just always had this thing. I wanted to be like my uncle Danny. I wanted to be a professional athlete, and it's fun in one sense. I was able to do that. But if I could go back, I feel like I would have put more effort into having more goals besides that.
Yeah. That's funny. It reminds me of a Jim Carrey quote. He says, I wish everybody could get everything they've ever dreamed of, because then they would realize that that's not going to change anything, like inside.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, for
I'm
sure.
And I gotta bring up, you talking about your Uncle Danny. So I can remember it might have been 6th grade or 5th grade, me and a buddy playing some Sega basketball game. And for
Yeah.
whatever reason, I played with the Suns, and I remember like Kevin Johnson, Cedric Ceballos,
Oh,
Danny
they were
Ainge.
loaded.
Yeah,
Thunder Dan Marley.
yep. Yep, man. I just remember playing that game and always picking the Suns. And it's just, I always think when I hear Danny Ainge, obviously he's a big executive now, but I just remember being a little kid playing that video game.
Yeah, he was such a good role model for me, man. I mean, he taught me so many different things about people and how to handle people and what kind of athlete you want to be. I remember one of the things that sticks out to me the most, and this always has, and to this day, I always will do it. But he told me one time he's signing autographs, and I was like, that's so cool. And he said, what did he say? He said, just make sure you always say yes and you're always nice. Take the picture, sign the autograph, because someday people want your autograph and you may wish they did. So don't say no. Be nice. And I've always did. Sometimes it used to take me like a couple hours after a Tennessee game to get out of there. They'd have to get me a police escort, and then I still would feel bad. I'd be like, there's still people here. I swear it's because of what my Uncle Danny taught me when I was a kid.
Yeah. Do you remember as a kid? Because I have memories of athletes that were cool to me and athletes that were a jerk. And do you have that same recollection?
Yeah, and I was fortunate, him being an NBA player. So he played for the Portland Trailblazers when I lived in Hillsboro, which is just a suburb of Portland. So when I was young, I got to go to practices. I lived in the locker room. So I was around Clyde the Glide Drexler and Terry Porter and all those guys. And they were always great to me. I mean, I was Danny's nephew and I was always around. So I love Charles Barkley. I think he's hilarious. I think he does a good job. Amazing player. But I went to Phoenix to see my uncle and watch a game. And I was out there shooting hoops, and it was Charles Barkley, Chuck, Sir Charles. He's out there. He signed some autographs for me and all that kind of stuff. And then I asked him if he'd play horse with me. And he was like, sure, little Ainge. And I don't know how old I was, 9. I don't remember. I was young. And so he's like, you go first. And I was a pretty good basketball player. So I hit like a 15-foot jumper, like boom, and he missed it. Got him H. So I'm on cloud 9. I'm like, I'm beating him. I get the ball back. I make the next one. And he could have been missing them on purpose. He missed the next one. So he's got HO. And I'm like, what? This is happening. I miss. He gets the ball, dunks it 5 times in a row because I'm 9, and goes, game over, and then like walked away. I was devastated. I was like, are you serious? I can't dunk. You can't do that. And my Uncle Danny was like, he's competitive. He wasn't going to be willing to lose to you. And like even my Uncle Danny was fine with it. I was this little kid. I'm like, are you kidding me? I had him HO.
He wouldn't let you do a layup?
No. Dunk. Game over. Pat on the butt. See you later. See you later,
Kind
kid.
of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like who is it that rejects people in the commercial in the grocery store?
Mutombo. It's Mutombo, isn't it? And he does the finger.
Mm-hmm. That was Barkley to you, 9-year-old Ainge.
That was it, man.
Hey, so you've talked about time in the NFL and at UT a lot. Is there anything like maybe that kind of sticks out to you that you really weren't expecting from your time in the NFL?
I think so. I think part of it that I learned, and I didn't really love it because I love football. But everyone always says the NFL, it's a business. It's a business, and it is. It's a multi-billion-dollar business. But I didn't expect it to be that way with as many players as I encountered. They were there to make money. They liked football, but if they could have made that money and not played it, they wouldn't have. But what other job are you going to get that pays like that? And like the love of the game. And it was usually the older players that had been around, maybe jaded, traded to 3 or 4 teams, felt like they'd been wronged at some point. That part of it was a little harder. As a kid, you're watching these guys play and you just assume every one of them just is diehard, loves the game. And at some point, I think all of us did. But I think that part of it was a little hard.
Yeah. How about at Tennessee?
I think at Tennessee, one thing that I wish, so like when you're playing, the games matter to you. Obviously, you put all that time into it. It's your craft. You're dedicated, all that kind of stuff. But when you see how much it matters to the fans that have been going forever, it's what they do. In college, I would have debated this. I'd been like, there's no way they care more than I do. Look what I'm doing. My whole body's broken. I'm putting all this time in. Of course I care more than they do. The older I get and the more I've been living in Knoxville doing the job I have, I don't know that that's true. I don't know that the players care. Maybe we can say equal, right? But the people that spend money that go travel and they do that, the fans of the teams, they're as diehard and dedicated as the players are. I don't think you know that when you're young. Part of it is I was 18 to 21 years old, so I just didn't know. But that's one thing that I've learned over my time here, and it's been fun.
I thought this was interesting because I have not heard this story. I read that you were once fined for wearing an orange tie. What is that story?
Orange tie?
Is that not a real thing?
No, but I did almost get fined in the NFL. I always have like rubber bands and bracelets and stuff like that. And I was walking out of the
Yeah.
tunnel one time, and the referee was right there, and he goes, Ainge, and I was like, what's up? And he goes, you know, that's $5,000 for each one of those wristbands, right? And I was like, are you kidding
Wow.
me? I ripped them off and threw them to a fan in the stands. I was like, yeah, it'd been like $50,000. That was a
Oh
fifth
my
round
God.
draft pick. Are you kidding? I was like, no, I don't remember an
So
orange tie though.
I'm going to blame AI on this because moments before you came on, I typed into Chat GPT uh, podcast questions for Erik Ainge, and it gave me 10 questions. Uh, and one of them it said, you were fined for wearing an orange tie at an SEC something. That was the question. So either
Hey, if I
Chat
did get
GPT is
fined,
wrong.
I didn't pay it. News to me that I may have a tab somewhere. Who knows?
Yeah, they're going to hear this though, and now like this is going to be used in court against you.
Yeah, it better not be.
Um, that's why we can edit it out. So how about this? Even though I know you came to your job in a star quarterback, coming to the job after your time in the NFL, do you have any other advice that might be a little more attainable for somebody that might be listening that might really be interested in a career in sports radio?
Well, I think that you got to love it. It's like anything. If and it's no different than for a parent who has a kid that wants to play sports and the kid loves sports. Well, they need to be a D1. You know, it's if you are picking a job someday, if you love your job once you're an adult, if you love it, you're probably going to be better at it. You know, if you tolerate it, you may be pretty good at it. If you hate it, you're probably not going to be very good at it. So if you want to get into broadcasting and radio and talking sports and blogging and podcasting and all that stuff, just check yourself at the door. Do you love it? If you love it, then you might be great at it. And if you are, then you may have a career in it. That's true for anything though. If you want to be good at something, you
Right.
got to put the work in, you know?
Now, how about if you could interview any player or coach, past or present, who would it be?
Ooh. Um, I would have said Brett Favre because he was my idol growing up, but I got to play with him for a year in New York and we became good buddies. So I did get to do that in a roundabout way. Um,
If you ever got
Tennessee.
Charles Barkley on the show, would you bring up that story?
Well, he wouldn't remember, but he also would probably say that does sound like something I would do. Um, I don't know who I would interview. If I could get a real, raw, honest interview from Peyton, where it wasn't, coach speak and you know what I mean? Like if you got like a real raw and he was honest about everything, that's something I think everybody would want to hear. And he's a pro. He's amazing at it. He's very honest and he shares. He's open, total. But I mean like open, because that dude has more stories, more success, some failures. But I swear he always took whatever his failure was and turned it into an inevitable positive for himself. So Peyton might be the guy.
Yeah, that's probably the right answer. There's a major league fishing guy from East Tennessee. His name's Brandon Coulter, and Peyton goes fishing with him once a year. And I
Oh,
talked
I
to
know
that
Brandon.
guy.
Brandon and I've been buddies forever.
Okay, so Brandon has all these stories because they'll go fishing all the time, and he's got a lot of cool stories just that he's gotten, and I'll listen to those secondhand.
Yeah, oh, I'm sure. Especially if you're fishing. If you're fishing and you're just talking.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. One of these days we need to like slip a recorder in there though.
yeah.
I mean,
Oh, that'd be
that's a podcast.
that would be gold.
Yeah. All right. One last question. I ask everybody this. What is your favorite workout exercise?
Um, anything. I would say anything on the turf involving like medicine balls and any like track type, this place to this place, like circuit type thing where we're doing this here and this here and this here and this here. We're going to hit them all, take a quick break, hit them all again, take a quick break. I like doing stuff like that. I think the weight room stuff is really important. I think when you're young, speed and agility and quick, learning how to do everything the right way so you can actually build properly is super, super important. But I love the stuff. just for my attention span, where you're going boom, boom, boom. Even if you're in the weight room, I like going quick from one thing to the next. You have to learn how to do everything first, but once you know how to do it, I like just hammering it.
Absolutely. All right, man. Erik Ainge with the Sports Animal. Thanks so much for your time, buddy.
Always, Casey. Appreciate it.